Hi, everyone. Welcome to Dial the Gate, the Stargate Oral History Project. My name is David Reed. Rob Fournier, the owner of P51 Productions and the armorer for Stargate SG-1, Atlantis and Universe, is joining us for over 90 minutes of covering the weapons, the Earth weapons of the Stargate television franchise. Now, I put Earth weapons in the YouTube title because I did not want to put Earth firearms because I could get a little red flag. But we are going to be covering the firearms and the explosives of SG-1, Atlantis, and Universe in this thorough episode. And I was debating whether or not to put it in two parts, but he's engaging. He keeps it interesting. And if you are interested in weapons, I can understand if you're not. But if you are interested in weapons, you're going to find this very insightful because not only does Rob provide insight into their use in the show, but he also provides historical perspective on the weapons. So if you're a fan of history, you're going to find this couple of hours, a little less, very engaging. And I really invite you to jump in and watch with us. I am privileged to have back Rob Fournier of P51 Productions. He was the armorer on all 17 seasons of Stargate. Rob, thank you for joining me once again. It's always a pleasure to have you, sir.
David, it is a pleasure and honor to be back here on Dial the Gate and looking forward to it.
You know, there are shows out there that are elements like this, when you have real world weaponry, are so key to getting right because you could just throw anything up there on the screen. But you know that, especially with this audience, it's a military audience, very largely. And they're going to be looking for those little details. And I was just driving down the road a few days ago and I was like, you know what? I've had Rob on. I really love the guy. I'd love to get him back, but I'd like to go through the firearms that are in the franchise. And I'm thinking, and the ancillary weapons like C4 and grenades and things like that. And I'm thinking 50, 60 at most. 150 pieces later of screenshots. It's like, oh my God, I had no idea, Rob. I had no idea it was that intensive.
Yeah, we used quite a bit throughout the years, and some of them were repetitive, but then we
Sure.
had new characters come in, and we needed new looks, and sometimes we'd fabricate new looks for those new characters and new aliens and new races around different planets.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not even talking about the the alien weapons that were from the ground up made designed by the studio in-house using their fabrication machines. We're talking about Earth-based weapons and weapons that were uh, utilized from Earth to create something else. So let's go ahead and get started because we've got a long road to go, and I'm curious as to our velocity through this. So this was the first image you sent me. This is an image from season two's The Gamekeeper.
That's right. And it's funny because I'm in the middle there. I have a full Uzi, and the two gentlemen on my left and right, the one on the right, as you're looking at the photograph with the hat on, that's Bill Ferguson. He's actually a stunt coordinator. And then the person on the left, I can't remember his name entirely, but I know he's a stunt performer.
Okay.
And we're basically all firing, the two of us are firing Uzis, and then the one gentleman with the hat, Bill, is firing, I think it was a Krinkov AKS, which is a short AK. I was fortunate to get this. This was kind of given to me by my good friend Dan Shea. And
Hmm.
he said, look, we need these German terrorists that, take over this old mansion type facility and get into a firefight with the SG-1 team. And I said, yeah, I'd love to do it. So it was funny because my good friend Lem Lemercier, who is retired, was the armor on this. And I helped him out, but it was funny because I had to hit my mark and that, and I'm like, okay, go hot on the firearms, and then the other two stunt performers would go hot, and then I would clear the firearms for them. It's just like I couldn't turn it off. And it actually helped my other fellow armorer to he was handling the hero weapons at the time, our SG-1 team, and I basically handled the terrorist weapons. So they got 2 for 1 on that day.
Look at the muzzle blast. First of all, the guy to our left looks like David Hewlett from this distance. And look at the muzzle blast on that. And the first thing I thought was you were mentioning that some of these sometimes CGI enhances the muzzle blast, and if they do the job right, we never even notice it. But in this case, look at the shadow he's casting on that window panel there.
I do remember the stunt performer's name now. It's John Sampson,
Ah,
and
there you go.
that is a full load out of a 9 millimeter, right? So uh, you can see that I'm about to fire too. I had to have my collar up because they didn't want to. I've been seen as other characters, and they
Yep.
wanted to kind of hide my face as much as possible. So I had the old collar up like I'm some mobster from the 30s or 40s.
Dick Tracy, man. Dick
Yeah,
Tracy.
something like that.
In
But yeah,
German, Schnell.
that's that's definitely a full load that's coming out of that. Yeah.
What we got here?
This is
This the
a
right direction, or am I going the wrong way?
no, you're I think you're
Okay.
going right. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the P90, and I really wanted to show the difference of the muzzle flash of that. So it looks like there's two P90s fine there. Those are full loads. So you're looking at, a good 18-inch muzzle flash that comes out on full loads. And if you look at the top photo with Amanda tapping, proper etiquette, she finger off the trigger and right in the shoulder and stuff like that. And somebody trained him well. And
Right.
and then you got Chris Judge, who I think had another P90, and he's facing like 45-degree angle. But it was it's still a powerful weapon. But it's such a joy to work with because on full loads, the reliability is like excellent on those.
That
And
muzzle
you don't
flash on. Go ahead.
sorry, you don't have to enhance any muzzle flash on that. It's there.
Wow.
Yeah.
If you put your, it's not actually, it's firing a blank. If you put your hand inside that 18-inch range, would it burn you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a full load blank. So, the way blanks operate is like wherever the bullet would be on a live round, firing on a live range, that's no longer there. It's a crimp. So it's basically extended um, metal that basically seals itself. So now you can use actually more powder inside. So in reality, the muzzle flash on a live P90 when firing live ammunition on a range or with special forces, it's nowhere near that big. It's probably half that length. But for cinematic reasons, we like to
Right.
see big muzzle flash. Yeah,
Yeah. In that case, you're putting someone down, not worried about being flashy. But in this
that's right.
case, it's
That's right.
fiction. So, you can play some games with that. So,
Absolutely. This is a was the Beretta M9, but this is an actual Taurus PT92AF. So Taurus is a Brazilian weapons manufacturer, and they basically copied the Beretta 92FS, which was the U.S. Army and U.S. military's main sidearm, called the M9, and it was replaced by Sig Sauer just recently with a different weapon. But this is something that we had in the earlier days because we had really good metal replicas and we had very good plastic replicas. So we actually went with the Taurus. And if they wanted a tight shot of the firearm, then we'd go to the actual Beretta because the finish was nicer on it. But for big wide shots or stunts, you'd have replicas and rubbers for those.
wow. And this is the item as well.
That is, yeah, that's Amanda holding it. That's an early picture because
Yeah.
I did correct her bottom hand. That wouldn't be on. That's
Yeah, this is first commandment with the cave drawings. So
yeah. Yeah, and that's the actual Beretta there. So
I
you can
see.
see they're very, very similar there. But the finish, the quality is better with Beretta USA, and it's an actual firearm that was first made in Italy, and then it's licensed to be built in the United States also now.
Got it.
That's the early version HKMP5. So this was our hero firearms. Um, HK is Heckler and Co. It's a company out of Germany, and you can see that it has S, E, and F. So S is for safe, E is for ein, which means single or one in German, and then für for full auto. So basically, you would click one click down, went to semi-automatic. Every time you pulled the trigger is one shot. And then fully automatic, if you held the trigger down, it would empty the entire magazines. We had a flashlight on the end and then basically a little touchpad
Mm,
because sometimes you don't want to use the light, but you still want to hold the firearm. So it was basically a little touchpad on the opposite side of the firearm. We had very good real ones and replica and rubbers that were all made. The rubbers were made in-house through the excellent molding and
mm.
prop department that they had there. And we had a lot of these made.
I was first thinking, with three settings, I would be concerned in flipping back and forth between them because I would think it would be really easy to miss the middle one. But we're talking nearly a 90-degree arc with that switch there. So you got a lot of room between the switches. You'll know exactly which one you're on if you're not looking at it.
Yeah, absolutely. You would definitely feel like the difference, and it's basically almost straight down for the full auto, so you would
Got it.
know if you're on semi-automatic or not. You don't want to be stuck on safe when you have to engage, right? So
Is there two magazines in that?
yeah, so that was my idea. They were always saying, "Well, we want to carry spare mags, but we don't really have place to put them." This was in the early days, right? And I said, "Well, we have a dual mag holder. What's that?" And I introduced it, and then all of a sudden SG-1 adopted it. That's an older type scope on top of that.
Mm,
That's probably, from the look of it, it's hard to tell, but it's probably a replica. I
mm.
always use the replicas with our cast because they're much lighter until they came up to the point of firing the weapon, because there is quite a difference in weight. Like a real firearm, like an MP5, is probably the equivalent of like four replicas together. That's how much of a difference in weight.
Now, when it's discharging the ammunition, is it pulling from both, or is it doing one or the other, or is
No,
one
it
just sitting
the
there
way
just
the
attached?
magazine it's connected in the middle there, David.
Yeah.
And the way it works is once you empty one, you just basically pull the magazine out and
Okay.
then just put it to the other side. So basically, instead of having 30 rounds, you have access to 60 now.
So you're holding it. It's like so you don't have to reach into your pocket and grab one. It's there on the weapon.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Wow.
This is we used to call the stupid gun. It was stupid in a good way because this is the Daewoo USAS-12. So this is a select fire shotgun, so it can do semi-auto and fully automatic. 19 round drum. It's not 20. It's a 19 round. You could have 20 in theory because you would put one in the chamber and then put the magazine on. Um, it is incredibly loud to fire and has huge muzzle flash. And it can be uncomfortable for those around you. It's always great to be behind the firearm. That's the best place to be. But the concussive effect is so great that cameras always had to be protected for our operators and focus pullers or dolly grips. And sometimes they would just do lockoffs with the camera just because they didn't want to have to deal with setting up Lexan and stuff. So we had options there. You never had to really enhance this firearm when firing blanks because it gave a massive fireball.
Wow.
And if you had to, you would trail it off one of the existing muzzle flashes.
Man. Now, the
This
first I saw this, I thought it was an AR-15. I
uh,
own an AR-15, and it looks very similar.
Yeah, this is basically what a lot of people used to call a car 15, right? So it first came out in the early days of the Vietnam War, like into 67, 68, was adopted first by like SEAL teams and Special Forces, U.S. Army. And then it became so well known that it just spread across. All the different regular army units. You can see this one is an early version because it doesn't have what they call a forward assist near the brass ejecting area. A forward assist would help engage the inner workings of the gun in case it misfired. Not a great thing to do, but it's still around today. The M4 has been around a long time. This is one with a grenade launcher
I
on
was
it.
gonna say, yeah.
That's called an M203, and we just connected that through a rail underneath. And basically, it gave you an incredible amount of firepower because that's a 40 millimeter grenade. You could launch up to 300 meters.
Wow. Where's the button for the grenade?
The guy, it's a separate trigger. You can't see it. It's just behind his left hand as he's holding the
Okay.
forestock of it. But it's just a separate trigger just in front of the magazine. So he would basically push a button near his left thumb. You could see in front there's a button that would open up
Ah,
the mechanism. You'd put the 40 millimeter grenade in, pull it back. Once you pull it back, it cocks the actual weapon, and then you had a separate trigger underneath.
so single grenades every time.
Single grenade, yeah.
Okay.
And then once you shot it, you had to change it, get rid of the casing inside, and basically throw it away, and then basically load another one if you had.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, the old M1 Garand, been around for a long, long time since
The
the
Army.
30s. Yes, and it's still used for ceremonial purposes. This was the basically the benchmark of the U.S. military in World War II. And
Wow.
incredibly heavy gun, but extremely reliable. It was a 30-06 caliber, and it had a integral 8-round clip that went into a magazine. So it's a separate clip. And when you would empty out the eighth round after the eighth shot, it would just pop out. And you probably seen this on like Band of Brothers,
Mm-hmm.
Private Ryan. You would see them pop out. Well, the Germans would wait to listen for that, and then they'd come over the top and engage with the Americans. But the Americans were they countered this with Thompson submachine guns and M1 carbines and stuff. So they always had cover
Yeah,
when it.
while we're reloading these, meet our friends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Ah, very good. For Daniel's funeral. Yeah.
yeah. That I remember that day because there was one of the background couldn't quite get it right, so I had to swap him out with someone else, and then finally we got it somewhat because we didn't get a whole lot of rehearsal time or training time.
I thought these were real guys.
No, not all of them. The first,
Oh,
the ones holding the flags are real,
okay.
and the ones on the end are not.
Oh, I did not know that. I thought the full team was on loan from the Air Force for this. Okay.
No, no.
Wow. Okay.
Good old M16A1. And like I said, it's came out, just after the start of the Vietnam War. This was the basic assault rifle for the entire U.S. military at the time. Since then, it's changed 100 times. It's still used today, but it's changed drastically. The inner workings are all still the same, but they're much lighter, more accurate, and now everybody uses optics and stuff like that. So.
Wow.
This is obviously in front of Cheyenne Mountain there.
These are the real dudes here.
Yeah, you can see one has a finger on the trigger and one doesn't. I was not there for that.
Right. Get that finger off the trigger.
Yeah,
You shooting an animal over at the zoo around the corner there? All right. That's
yeah,
great.
no,
Thank you for all this history. This is fascinating. I really appreciate
not a
it.
problem.
Ah, the 50
Yeah,
cals.
good old M2 Browning, still used today. Believe it or not, it's called an M3 and it's been changed many times. Fantastic heavy machine gun.
I
Um,
sold the fake ones through PropWorks that were at the end of the
yes.
ramps.
Yeah, no, those it's funny because you're showing the gate room there and you notice they had special helmets
Yep.
that were used and stuff like that because basically they wanted to differentiate the actual gunners from everyone else and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But we never actually fired
No.
on camera inside the gate room. We test fired it and the producers went, "Oh, that's too much."
Yeah,
Because it was
right.
basically rattling the entire gate itself.
Well, the whole idea was that at the start of the show, the gate room is assaulted majorly, and all of the men and lady, well, the gal is extracted to the other world, but all of the guys die, and they were not going to have that happen again. And
That's
so
correct. Yeah.
that's it.
The Daewoo K3. So this is what we have in our stock at our shop. It basically is the exact same as the FN Minimi, which is American designate is the M249 squad automatic weapon, or SAW, better known as.
Mm.
Um, we ended up getting a great deal. We tried to get the Minimis, and they weren't allowing them to civilian companies. They were really, really tough. So we ended up getting a hold of these. They're made in South Korea and still made
Wow.
today. And then we did shorter versions. You can see the barrels shorter on that. We changed the stock on it. And I remember this day too, because
Jay Agavone.
yeah, Jay, he's such a great guy. He made me laugh a lot. Lots of good jokes with him in the morning. But they would always run up against for cover, and then they hit the rocks, and the rocks would move. I'm like, okay, don't touch the rocks because
Breaks the illusion.
no way that you could move like a rock that's 20 tons sitting there, right? So,
Oh, that's funny.
but it was, we had to be careful firing that, especially the saw, because the massive fireball comes out of it, and a
Uh-huh.
lot of these rocks were made of styrofoam.
Oh, they'll pull apart with the
They'll
concussion.
blow apart and they'll melt, right?
Oh
And
my
I
gosh.
remember seeing one of our stunt performers. He did like four magazines in a scene, and he just laid the weapon down, and it melted
Oh,
all over the barrel.
would they
So,
have guys on set to be able to touch those things up, or I mean,
oh
because you
yeah,
can't
we had
turn the rock for the wider shots consistency,
yeah,
you
we
know?
did have an art department. Like we had an on-set painter that
Yeah.
would
Okay.
fix it up. So we'd turn the rock, 30 degrees to cover
Oh
a
gosh.
big melted portion or stuff like that. But
Cut, rock makeup.
yeah, yeah, it was a learning experience, especially in the early days, right?
Yeah, it's your pilot.
Yeah. Uh, this is the same M16 with a M203. So that's your 40 millimeter grenade launcher. You can see where the
Wow.
trigger is. There's an actual cocking handle on this on the
Yeah, I see
grenade
it.
launcher. You have to pull that back. That's an early version M203. Since then, it's changed quite a bit. But that's like something you would have seen in like the first Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger holding that, right?
What
Same.
act? Yeah, what activates the grenade in there when you pull
It's
it back and is it a timed release?
Yeah, it's not a time release. So what
Okay.
happens is when you fire it, it won't like if you were to shoot at something 5 meters away, it won't
Yeah.
explode, but it is a set fuse. So if it doesn't explode, eventually it will.
Okay.
It's a self-detonating fuse. So what happens is when it launches out of the actual weapon, it clears, I think it's within 50 meters, and then it engages the actual fuse. And then at
Okay.
that point, once it has contact, when it lands, that's when it explodes. So that way you don't blow yourself up.
Yeah, what if you miss and hit something near to you and it falls to the ground and starts, you know, rolling towards you? You better get
Yeah.
going.
You start running. Yeah, you you get the hell out of there. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, more from
And
Children of the Gods.
there's another shot of it. You can see this one has a dual mag on it also,
Yeah.
right? You can see that's a shorter variant. I can see that barrel. So that would be a Car 15 with a 203 on it with a dual magazine. So that's that one. If it was firing, then it's the real one. And if it was a replica, then it would be much lighter.
I see.
The
Ooh,
good
Death
old
Glider
Stinger.
Killer.
Yes, the old Stinger. Been around for a long time. Still used in some countries around the world. But it worked off a heat signature, right? So it
Wow.
basically would set up, you would lock onto a heat signature. It wasn't the easiest thing to use, and it's not exactly compact, but it was deadly accurate, especially within 2 or 3 miles, right?
I'm sorry, what's this remote here? Is this to
That's basically to charge there's a battery inside, and
okay.
that basically gives you the power to charge it if your battery's low, because it was like you can reuse this weapon. It's not a throwaway weapon. So instead of taking the battery out constantly, which is a big hassle, that would just be
Wow.
an auxiliary hookup to recharge your battery.
Oh, looks like something I'd take off my motorcycle. All right. And there they are.
There's a good shot. Yeah, that's in North Vancouver in the GVRD at we used to call it the 4K mark. And I just remember that because my two armors were down below
Yeah.
with the firearm shooting down there, and I was up top making sure that this person held the stinger correctly, and basically gave it a little recoil, but there wouldn't be much because it's a it's a blowback. It's not a blowback weapon. Sorry, it's a vacuum type weapon.
Okay.
So everything goes out the back end.
Okay.
There's a little bit of recoil, but the missile does the rest.
What's this cloud here? What kind of
That
material is that?
special effects, they added that in. They
In
gave it.
post.
Uh, I think there was a little one, and then they added
Okay.
through CGI, and then they wanted to clear the smoke quickly so you'd see
Yeah.
the trail of the missile as it's taken out the Gould ship, and that's SG-2, right? So
Yes, that is.
yeah, and then there's the impact there. Yeah, yeah.
SGC-1 Gould 0. That's great.
Uh,
Okay.
that's a basic smoke grenade. This color would be red. Red would signify a target area where you want your, if you had air cover
Okay.
or definitely like helicopter, fighter aircraft, or what have you. You want to mark the target with red smoke.
Oh, wow. Okay.
M67 Fragmentation Grenade, still used today. Been
What's
around
in there?
for a long time. So that's C4. Basically,
Oh,
it's a fuse that runs down the middle from the top portion all the way to the middle of the grenade. So the fuse is between 5 and 7 seconds roughly. And then what it does is it ignites inside, which helps ignite the C4. But the C4 inside is also encased with a bunch of ball bearings.
ball
And
bearings.
the
Okay.
encasement of the grenade itself is like a cast alloy. So there's a lot of shrapnel that comes out of that too, once the grenade explodes.
Wow.
Your good old 1911, been around since
Colt.
1911, yeah. And mostly for ceremonial purposes, but the U.S. Marine Corps still uses it today. We used it the odd time because they wanted a different look from the M9, the Beretta, and it's a very reliable weapon. Extremely, yeah, I know this gentleman. He's a friend of
Yeah.
mine. Yeah,
Oh, I'm
but
looking forward. I want to have him on the show this season. So absolutely. He's
yeah,
Hammond in this episode, and he's Major Kearney in season 8. So good
yeah,
guy.
he's a local. He lives here in Vancouver. Yeah,
All right. Very good.
but he was holding the 1911 there, and he's just about to open up a door. So
Yeah. Let SG-1 out.
yeah, good old Smith and Wesson model. It's actually a Model 9. Sorry, Model 10. This has been around since the 1920s, right? Used with police forces and
Yeah.
everything like
Cops and
that.
robbers films.
Cops and robbers, you've seen it in many gangster movies and stuff like that for the police units. Uh, this is actually not bad. That's my friend Efo.
Okay.
He's a stunt performer and actor. And I was there that day, and they wanted basically to see more of the gun, so I had to change his left hand a little bit and go underneath. I'm like, okay, we'll go a little old school and found a happy compromise.
Not Rob going over here. You want that shot? Move your camera. We want this angle. Well, I want safety.
Yeah, there you go. Walther P99. It was actually made famous by the day after not day after tomorrow. Tomorrow Never Dies. James Bond.
Oh, James Bond.
Yeah, Pierce Brosnan, when he lost his Walther PPK, and then he goes, "Oh, Walther P99, 13 in one," right? So,
Ah,
great handgun, still used today. Used it on many, many different movies and stuff like that. This is an actual hangar in Boundary Bay,
ah,
which is in South Vancouver area, and it used to be an old Air Force hangar. So we filmed there quite a bit, and we used that hangar quite a lot.
yeah. Later on, the hangars were often empty stages in Bridge Studios.
Yeah.
For like something like this, you're gonna have I think a C5 Galaxy was landing outside of this, so you would need something. If you're gonna go there, you might as well get that a little bit bigger. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The full Uzi.
Uzi.
Yeah. Made famous by Israel, but still used today. It is a tank. You could drive over this with your 1-ton truck and it won't even hurt it. It's incredibly tough.
Wow.
It's not the most accurate weapon because it's not a long barrel length on it, but at close range, it's devastating. Yeah.
Was this yours?
That's what I was using there. And
Okay.
the gentleman on the left, gentleman on the right had a different weapon, but we both had Uzis there. Yeah.
Wow. All right.
That's the newer version of the M16. The designate here is Colt Model 715, but this would be an M16A3. So this is like a later version that came out probably after season 5 or 6, and it had a different forestock. It had a forward assist on it, but it was a standard issue U.S. military.
If there's anything in this collection that is not manufactured anymore, I'd love to know it. Just so you
Yeah,
know.
you bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's
There's Jack.
O'Neill. Yeah, he's probably shooting at me at some point.
Right. Yeah. This was a Black Ops mission in the 80s that he's
Oh,
recalling.
yes. I
So
remember
he's in
that.
East Germany. And yeah, he's probably taking out Russians.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
and
he actually
Germans.
enjoyed that one. He did enjoy firing that. I think he was the only one that was firing the M16.
He went the man the number of rounds that that man went through, like in episodes like uh the one with you forever in a day with the vehicle that you're on, and along with trying to shoot down Dan Payne at the quarry later on.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
he went through so much ammunition over that show. It's wild.
He did. He did quite a bit. That's just a smaller version yet of a Car 15. You can see the muzzle brakes a little different. This is a standard 20 round magazine on it, but they've come with 30 round now, and then as high
Okay.
as 100 round C mags, which I
Oh
think
my.
you'll see in a different photo.
There's
Yeah, there's
Jay.
Jay again. He's got that's a Car 15 with a 203 on it.
Wow.
Yeah. That's the same one of a older M16.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And then
Got
there's,
it.
yeah. The good old Dragunov. So there's my friend Bill Ferguson again. This time he's holding a different weapon, but this is the Dragunov. This is a Russian sniper rifle, caliber 7.62 by 54R. So it is a long round. It's a very accurate rifle within reason, but extremely light too, and very mobile, right? It's just a long firearm,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it definitely has a different look from your standard AK, right?
Absolutely. It's a beautiful piece. Like
Hmm.
this cherry color, yeah.
Good old
Front
Claymore.
toward enemy.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You can't
How many
screw
brain
that up,
cells?
right?
You're
Unless you
right.
don't speak English, I guess. But
Oh
uh,
man.
yeah, some people got confused in it in the early days. They're like, I don't know which way to put this, and you definitely don't want to blow yourself up. So these were always connected with either tripwires, or you could do it by what they called a clacker, which was gave an electrical current
Mm,
by hand, running by a cable, because it's quite a big kill radius on this weapon. You're looking at
my
for
gosh.
40 meters, right? So
Wow. The SPAS-12,
mhm.
the first anti-replicator gun.
It is. It's the biggest nightmare firearm that we worked with. It didn't always work, and it's a
Oh.
cumbersome weapon, and it's very hard to cock the weapon, like to chamber it like a good old Remington shotgun. But it did look fearsome. It was big and bulky. I preferred using the USAS-12s to these by 100-fold, just because it's not a fun weapon to work with.
Wow.
Norinco Type 84. So this is a Chinese AK. And it basically, you can see the magazine's a little straighter than a Soviet style. It's also a different caliber. It's 5.56, where a Russian AK-47 is 7.62, or 7, yeah, 7, not 7, 7.39, right?
Get it right, Rob. This is for
Yes, I
all
know, I
time.
almost screwed up there. And it was something we had to set up a scene. Um,
Yeah, I
sorry.
think this is in Seth's. This may be in Seth's um
Yeah, they wanted me to,
compound.
I set it up so it looked like they were cleaning their
Oh, okay.
firearms, stuff like that. Sorry, the Russian caliber is 7.62 by 39. That's what I meant to say.
Oh, okay.
A shorter round, but the good old FN Mag 58. Americans call it the M240. When I was in the Canadian military, we called it the C6. I carried that weapon for 3 years. It weighs 20
Wow.
pounds. So it is a general purpose machine gun. So it's a platoon level support weapon. and it's very, very heavy. After 40 or 50 miles in the bush, it gets a little heavy.
Is that a collapsed on the front of it so you can sit it down on the ground
Yeah,
and
that's a
steer it?
bipod that
Okay,
basically
bipod.
folds up and then
Okay.
have your wooden stock on the back end. The American version had a synthetic stock, which was all black.
Okay.
Uh, you can't quite see it in that photograph. It's very dark, but that was a weapons room that
Yeah.
or armaments room that we set up. I only had about 15 minutes to set this room up, so I went as fast as
Wow.
yeah, crazy. Good old M60E3. Still used today, mainly with the Marine Corps, but very reliable weapon and fun to fire. We've had numerous characters fire this, including Rick has shot this one too. And just a fun weapon to fire. I fired it quite a few times out of helicopters myself on film
Okay.
and television. So it is a reliable weapon, and it's they call it the pig because it felt like the weight of an actual pig because it is heavy. It's like 25 pounds, right? So, but you also had the most firepower
Yeah.
over anyone, right? So,
Wow. Here we go.
yeah, good old P90. So you got Rick there holding it properly, and then Amanda on the lower photo, finger off the trigger. She was so well trained, and they always held it correctly, right? Because I've seen some people in other movies hold it incorrectly, and it just kind of takes away from the whole purpose of the weapon, right?
You guys wanted to get it right, and they know
Mm,
that they have fans from the show who are watching this series on military bases who they don't want them snickering at them while they watch this and they're getting taken out of the magic.
yeah,
So this is great stuff.
good old MP5K, and that's a stunt performer. His friend is Mike Cook. He's actually from Scotland. I love the guy. He's great, and he still works in film today, although he looks much older now. That MP5K is a great little submachine gun. This is a micro Uzi, so very small submachine gun. You can see that the three settings: safe, fire, and auto. So
Wow.
the safe, obviously, weapon is safe. We go to F, single shot, and then automatic. It's that's a little 20 round mag. It'd empty that out in roughly 2 seconds. Fast. So
Save your bullets.
yeah, it spits it out very, very fast.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's a longer mag there. That's a 32 round magazine that we put on that. So
So 2.5 seconds.
yeah, you're like, yeah, probably closer to 3 seconds, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and there's the USAS-12 again. So I put this photo in there because I wanted to see, show the characters, our heroes holding them and stuff like that. So, you got Rick up top there and then Chris down below. Um, it's funny because Chris never ever wore eye protection. When you fire this weapon, the blast, if you get too close to an object or stuff like that, it tends to kick the shockwave back towards you. And of course, Teal never blinks. And the other
Right.
time he would be blinking, and I'm like, okay, can we just move you away from this platform? Even a foot will make all the difference, right? And stuff like that. So
Did he not wear eye protection because he's a Jaffa or because Chris didn't want
I
to
think it
or
was because he's a Jaffa and that he's
okay.
fearless, right? And
Okay.
he just didn't want him with it. So, we always had to find options.
Do you remember shooting in the sub here?
So that one shot where it's a POV shot of Rick going inside and blasting the hell out of the inside of it. That shot was actually Martin Wood directed this episode, and my arms are around Martin. I think I mentioned this in an earlier interview.
Ah, yeah.
I'm holding the weapon. He's between me and the weapon, and I have full control of it. And he's right here with a little camera, and wherever I aim and shoot, he's
Like a
watching it
video
as
game.
I'm taking the
Yeah.
replicators out. And that was a cutaway submarine that we shot that in.
Okay.
And we emptied out drum after drum after drum after drum. And
There's a lot of the little buggers.
yeah, they were there. They were everywhere, right? So it
Good
was a ton of fun.
old Glock.
An old Glock, Austrian made sidearm. 9 millimeter. Yeah, been around, still used today. There's Amanda, finger off the trigger. She's so good at that, I tell you. Um, I I don't know if I was there for that because her hand is low again.
You can
And so
tell.
I wasn't always around because sometimes if it was
Yeah,
replica or I was booked on another production, I couldn't always
yeah.
be there. But I think I would have fixed that. But other than that, her fingers off the trigger. Well done. Makarov, which is the good old KGB type Russian military from the 80s. Very, very good, dependable little sidearm and easily concealable. And you can see it has the actual Soviet star on it, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Smith& Wesson 5906. Terrible weapon to clean, a nightmare to work on, but definitely different looking on camera. And it was something that we needed a different look. They wanted something stainless instead of your standard black type handgun on that episode. I remember that one. And then a good old Sig Sauer, P226, extremely reliable, very, very good firearm. I find this better than the actual Beretta.
Oh,
U.S. military just changed over to a SIG. They call it the M17, and it is top of the line, synthetic
wow.
and very, very useful. And then you got old Michael firing the P90.
He
That
desperately wanted to start being more involved
he
in
did.
the firing of some of this stuff, and so they're answering that call with 501 enemies.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, yeah. And then we had to put it in the case, and then we had to use dummy rounds because at a close on camera you could tell that they weren't actually dummy rounds. So we actually used dummy rounds, which are inert. They
Mm.
just look real, but there's no inner workings inside the casing itself. And then once we got past that, then we switched between the real and the replica.
Would your company fabricate the
No, this
dummies,
was
or
done
would
by
the
the
studio
props
do them?
department.
Oh,
The
they
props
would study
department,
them. Okay.
yeah, the art department built that case. I was just there to help them
Okay.
design it, which would be easy to use and also very pleasing for camera, right? So
Right.
they just wanted some. They everybody had a million ideas. I'm like, look, just ask the gun guy. He'll tell you how, what makes it work. So, good old HKSL8. HK, great company. This is their sniper version of a 5.56. Smaller caliber range, probably realistically 600, 700 meters maximum. But it definitely looks different. And then we put a big scope on it, and it's great for the SG teams. There's a mock-up that's they call it an AKSU 74U, but it's actually this is a Chinese variant. The
Oh,
AKSU is the shorter version, which you see Lieutenant Tolenev. She has in her
yes.
hand, and they wanted a flashlight, a brighter one on the side because we already had flashlights on it, but they're like they're not bright enough. So
Right.
props had to bring in these larger halogen type lights in and stuff like it. But I got to spend time with her and the remaining Russians and did a lot of training with them too. So they got it right.
This is an award-winning set. And so I think a lot of that had to do with the amount of light you were able to shine in it. So very well done.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. That's basically an M203, but off the weapon type. You can see it has attachments above it that you could easily take off the rear stock, which goes into Rick's shoulder there. But if you want to just use it as a single weapon itself, it came by itself too. And you can see Rick is firing it there, and he's
I think he
actually,
took out a death glider with it.
I think so, yeah. And
Yeah.
it would have to be pretty close because it really realistically 300 meters max with that weapon,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hey, there we go.
Planting a grenade, booby trap. So basically, you can see that the ring has been pulled out, and it's basically wrapping around the actual spoon itself. So when the person would trip that, it would flip the spoon, which would engage the fuse of the grenade.
So the only amount of time that they would have to say or think anything would be, now what the?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's basically a booby trap. Yeah.
Wow.
Mac 11, been around a long time, and it was actually used by the Secret Service.
I was gonna say these are, yeah.
Yeah, Secret Service used Mac 11s and micro Uzis. They use different weapons today, but you can see there's different ones. There's a micro Uzi in the background, then a handgun, and then a Mac 11 in the foreground. So um, they didn't want everybody to have the same one for that episode, so I had to mix it up for them.
Oh, okay.
Different shots of with the P90. Good old Tom in the top
Yeah.
there. He, I remember when he came back with camouflage, and I'm like, all right, it's a little bit dark, but you know what? We can work with that. And it was so dark that they couldn't read his eyes and stuff, so they had to clear a little bit of space around. But he's such a
What's good
great
in
guy.
real life? He's one.
Yeah,
I'm seeing him. I'm seeing him next month. What a wonderful person. And
he
you know
is.
what's
He's
what's
fantastic. Yeah,
what's great. You know, in real life, it's not necessarily practical on camera. You have to find a balance.
that's right. Creativity defeats reality sometimes.
That's it.
This is it's not the greatest shot, but it's basically a Remington 700 in a high-end stock that we put it in, right? And it's a 308 caliber sniper rifle, but it came in pieces. So this is the person putting the rifle together, and you can see the different shots of it there. But we still have it at our shop. It doesn't get rented a whole lot because it's kind of dated, but back then it was like state of the art.
When you rent these items at your shops, out of the shop, do they all have the same kind of cost associated with them, or are there different tiers based on the item itself, or do you have it based on the number of days that they're going to be on set? Is there some kind of standard system that you follow for that? I'm curious, as someone who
There's
does this
different tiers.
professionally. Okay.
Yeah, different tiers because a handgun's going to cost much cheaper than, let's say, a
Ah,
machine gun. Just because you have to take the net worth of the actual firearm itself and the maintenance cost and the cleaning cost and all that. And
right.
the
You have a
ammunition.
job with them when you take them back. You have
Oh
to clean
yeah,
them
it
out.
doesn't end there. It's great on set and everybody goes home safe, but then I'll have 2 days of cleaning ahead of me, right? So
You personally,
I do, yeah, I service the weapons too.
how big is your operation, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I think
Personnel?
it's not. I don't own the company. I'm the senior armor there, but
I see.
I think in stock there's roughly 2,500 weapons, something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
This was I remember this is a revolver rifle. So that's a 357 Magnum. This is the man holding it is my good friend James Michalopoulos, who's a stunt choreographer.
Leo?
He's
Yeah.
actually a fight choreographer, good friend of mine.
All right.
And basically, it's a stock and a big barrel that hooks up to a revolver. That's really all it is. And then
Wow.
we put a big scope on top, and it looks definitely different, right?
Wow.
There's a shot of the Dragunov in the back
Yeah.
coming through the gate room. And, these are two of my buddies too. These are two stunt performers, friends of mine. Um, and I remember that metamorphosis. This was the Russians coming through.
That's right. They got their own team and
Yeah.
went from there.
And then that's the PKM there. So that's the Russian belt fed. That would be the kind of like the equivalent of the M60
Okay.
and the American M60. This is the Russian we're still used today.
Wow.
Extremely reliable weapon. This is the Soviet version of our M2 Browning, our 50 cal DSHK. Used a lot, still used today. You see them on what they call technicals, which are just pickup trucks with these on the back, and they'll shoot at ground targets or aerial targets. But we have a few of these at the shop. Fun to shoot, and much easier to clean.
At the shop, do you have a firing range?
We do not. We
Okay.
make a separate area shooting range in order to test fire if we have to.
That makes sense.
Yeah. This is a red eye, so this is basically the British version of the Stinger missile. So same effect.
Wow.
It does all the same things, just a different variant.
Also took out a death glider.
Yep, yeah. Well, those death gliders, you think they get rid of their heat signatures and they alleviate the problem, but
Oh gosh.
um, This is the Russian version of the M203 grenade launcher called the GP25. So it's also in 40 millimeter, and you can see it has like a rear and a front sight on it that can you can rotate it. And we usually hook these up on the side of AKs or on what they call Krinkovs. This one's actually on an AK with a folding stock. You can see with the Russian there. Yeah. Good old AT4. So this is a fire and forget. It's a 84 millimeter rocket launcher. It is not a heat seeker by any means. It is strictly shoot and throw away. Uh,
Wow.
it only does the one shot, and if you miss, you better run or get another one.
Wow. How long does it take to reload? Or is that it?
You can't reload it. It's a
Oh, it's a
single
one
shot.
time.
A
Wow.
one-time use only. Yeah. It has instructions all over it. You can see all through the top in case you didn't know how to operate it, but it's quite simple to use. Like I could teach you in about 60 seconds how to operate that weapon.
Wow.
This is a full auto Beretta called a 93R. Um,
Secret
20
Service
round
weapon?
magazine. Not really, but
Oh,
we
okay.
used it for they wanted something different, and I don't know if the Secret Service ever used these. I doubt it, but they wanted something that would fit in a holster, in a
Ah,
shoulder holster, but have the application of automatic. So we basically have this 20 round magazine that sits in the 93R, and basically you can shoulder take it out of the holster and then just fire it automatic. It was automatic only, it wasn't semi-auto.
wow.
Yeah, that's a an older Smith& and Wesson 3913. We call this the Lady Smith because it's a smaller handgun and it's made for people with smaller hands, but it's easily concealable too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
Good old Ithaca 12 gauge, been used in many, many movies. Super reliable. Ithaca is a great company. Very, very solid gun manufacturer. And they
would you
use,
find this in Honduras?
oh yeah, you'd find that worldwide.
Okay.
Yeah, easily. So this is the good old we call the Avenger 2.0. It's basically a mixed version of a Car 15 with a different stock, new sight on top, K grip in the front, the little handle, and then that's a C mag. So that C mag holds 100 rounds. So
My gosh.
instead of your standard 30 round mag, it held 100. So you had a lot of firepower. But with a lot of firepower comes a lot of heat. And I know Amanda fired this weapon. I'd say, look, control your rate because even the handle she's holding in the front heats up in her hand. And they're not
Wow.
gloves in that shot. I remember that. So I said, don't let it all go at once because you won't be able to hold on to it. Yeah, and there she is
Yeah, look
firing
at
it
that.
there. Proper handling. And she's got both eyes open. She's looking through the scope. That's an old Elcan. That's a Gen 1 Elcan. So it's basically it's like a six power scope that has a little arrow that points to the middle. And that's basically, she says, would I shut my eyes? I'm like, no, you're close quarter. Keep both eyes open.
Mm-hmm.
Your right eye will dominate eventually and sight on target in a nanosecond. And then you can see on the right hand side, there's a light attached to it.
Yeah, muscle memory takes over eventually.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, there's your standard AK, right? It's that's a Hungarian or Czech made Zastava, which is they were all the same back then. You know, it's the most used rifle in the world, right? See, I was right in the caliber. Sorry. Messed up early.
You're
7.62
good.
939. Yeah. And then you can see that the one that Frank is holding, that's a underfolding stock. So the stock actually folds underneath and his left hand is covering the stock. So he wanted a shorter variant so he can move quicker with it.
I want those sunglasses.
There's a good old GS. It's a G3, HKG3, or a later version of this came out called the PSG-1. So they wanted a sniper rifle that was believable for this scene. And I said, well, let's come up with something like this and throw a big scope on it and have a nice bipod. And I showed it to Rick on set before this episode. He's like, perfect. I love it. When can we do the training? I'm like, this afternoon. He goes, I'm in. I spent time with him on it and stuff like that. This version here, I think it's a replica. If I look close enough, you can notice there's zap straps on it, right? So
Okay. Oh, look at that. Yeah.
yeah,
What
so
does that indicate?
that either indicates it's a replica that the stock is not the same size as a real, or it's a rubber variant, but this doesn't look like a rubber to me. He was probably just getting up and running with it after this, so
Yes.
yeah, we had to have different takes on it, but sometimes the zap straps don't get painted out or anything like that, and you're kind of stuck.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Good old Barrett M82, so that's a 50 cal sniper rifle. It's changed a lot through the years, but still used today. SG3 was carrying that. I remember that because anyone who carried it complained because it's heavy.
Shut up. You're getting
Yeah.
paid. You're on the meter.
There's good old Chris with the saw, right? So,
Wow.
great weapon. Fantastic. And you notice that he's got it slightly tilted to the right, just a little bit because I don't want the brass to hit the person next to him.
Ah,
So
very
I
good.
have him just slightly tilt it so the person next to him didn't eat all the brass because you can actually see the casings coming out, right? So, but yeah, we didn't want to. I had to change that, so I was handling the cast weapons, and then there was a separate armor to do the individuals in the back. I think there was four of them behind that rock. So,
There are 3 or 4 encampments trying to take out this Cull Warrior in the middle of July. It's hot as hell, and Dan Payne, I don't know how he made it through this day, but he did.
he's like, Rob, where are they aiming? I'm like, everywhere but at you,
Yeah,
because Dan's a
absolutely.
good friend too, right? So I
Great
see him
guy.
every now and then, yeah. That's an earlier version of the M60. That's an A2 version. You got Rick firing it there. I remember that because he emptied box after box after box. And then you got Amanda with the Avenger in the back with the C-Mag. So there's a lot of firepower there. We went through a lot of rounds.
Yeah.
Good old
Ah,
60
heroes.
explosions. Yeah, our heroes running with the 60 and all that. So that was a Marine
Wow.
variant, I think, if I remember. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's the fireball that comes out of that grenade launcher, right? So you can see it's we're using a full load there, and they didn't want it in his shoulder. They wanted it so they'd see his face. So I had to have him hold it and then on a certain angle, but not too high. And you can see it's got a massive fireball on it.
Is that a
That's
CG fireball or is that
oh,
real?
that's real. That's a blank. That's a
Wow.
yeah. And he's got the bubble gum. I love that.
Absolutely.
He's
See, I love my
blowing,
little friend.
he's blowing bubbles. I love it.
Enrico Colaiton, I wanted to have him on the show this season. I'm going to try and get him.
Yeah, you can see on his top right, he's got the actual extra 40 millimeters on that right. Yeah,
Wow.
because he says, what hand do I load it with?" I go, "With your left hand. Have them on your right
Yeah.
shoulder, so they're easier to pull out." So yeah, and that's an 60 millimeter motor. This is something that a troop could carry himself, a soldier, and the rounds are not terribly heavy. They're about 8 or 9 pounds each. And they come in these boxes. If you look at the next photo, they're actual compartments, and each one held two in it, right? And you could hold like anywhere from 2 to 3 of these on you, and they're all interconnected together. So they are also, once you use it, you just throw it away. You don't
Wow.
carry it with you, right? Good old street sweeper, right? So
This looks
37
like what Arnold
millimeter.
used in Terminator.
No, and
Terminator
Terminator.
2.
Yeah, yeah, he had a minigun on that. This
Okay.
is an actual grenade launcher, and it's
Okay.
a 6-shot grenade launcher. And it basically there's a switch. If you look near the trigger, just above it, you push that switch in. Yeah, right there, and it basically opens the weapon up 45-degree angle, and then that's how you load your rounds in all six. And then you spin it like a little
Yeah.
top, and then what that does is it winds up the spring inside. So you only have to
Oh,
spin it about 8 or 9 times, and then every time you fire it, it automatically rotates the barrel like a revolver.
yeah. Look at that look.
Yeah, indeed. Um, and then you got your Beretta Cougar. This came out later seasons. We found these weapons at the SHOT Show in Las Vegas, and they had a unique look. And I got our boss to purchase some of them, and I thought this would be something that would be different looking. Still a great company, Beretta, but it was state of the art back then.
And home defense for colonels.
Good old Model 10, yeah, 38
Yeah.
caliber, yeah. Fire it
This
with I.
is on an alien planet, so we're starting to use some of our own tech elsewhere just to sneak it in.
Yeah, and very good cover. Very, very good cover. Your basic SIG 228. So this is the same as a 226, just shorter. It's like an inch shorter. And it basically is so it's easier to conceal. That's all it is.
Wow.
Yeah, great weapon. And then the old Time Cop Beretta, right? So we basically,
Yes.
uh, the reason we call them Time Cop Berettas is because they were made for the movie Time Cop with Jean-Claude Van Damme. And they liked the look of him so much that we ended up using them for certain characters on a planet. I'm not sure what planet it was, and they loved the look of it. And so it's basically a 9 millimeter underneath a thing that makes it look futuristic. That's all it is, you know. And then there's just different shots of the P90 with our cast, right, with Michael and Amanda and Chris, and then you could see more of the muzzle flash.
Yeah.
Just the devastating muzzle flash on it. Yeah, it was such a great weapon. Everybody loved it. Good old PPSH. So this is a World War II variant. It actually came out before World War II, a Soviet, a Russian built submachine gun. You could also do semi and fully automatic fire with it. This helped defeat the Nazi Reich in Stalingrad. It was one of the
Wow.
main points, right? Just super reliable, built mostly, with some metal, but a lot of Russian oak and just tough as nails. That's a street sweeper. So that's basically a 12 gauge. There was, if I remember, there's 14 shots inside of it. And it basically is 12 gauge and it works off a rotary system similar to the grenade launcher rotary. Lots of firepower, short, limited range, but good at especially in close areas and great against those bloody replicators.
They keep on coming, man.
Your standard Remington 870, used in a bazillion movies, still used today with SWAT teams. There's different variants. There's pistol grip variants and stuff, and at the time we didn't have like pistol grip variants, so we used what we had in stock, and that's one of them there in the photo.
Wow.
That's your Russian AK with the folding stock that I was telling you about earlier. So that
Mhm.
basically stock would fold and go underneath and go against the four stock, right? So you can see what that soldier has it on his leg there with the stock folded on it.
Did you always have a supply of what you wanted, or would you get a script and be like, "We don't have what I want for this. I want to order it. Here's our excuse to do that."
A lot of times, if not all the time, the director would do a show and tell, and they would use what we had in inventory.
I
Sometimes
see.
a writer would put in some weapon that is so rare that there's no way we could get it. So we try and, if we could replicate it, we would, but if not, we'd give options of choices.
And
And
I'm, was there ever a circumstance where he'd be like, "No, the writer's wrong. He's thinking
uh,
about this, but he actually means this."
I have done lots of corrections in the past and stuff like that, but you definitely have to have your facts right, right? Otherwise, they just kind of look right through you.
That's why they're spending the money on you, man.
Yeah. Good old Garand. You can see it's used there too with some of the other soldiers and good
Yeah.
old Matthew. Yeah, great guy.
Ah, good guy.
Yeah,
It's a
he's got it
Cylon,
on his
man.
shoulder. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's some fantastic shots. I remember that because the 30-06, it gives quite a big recoil. It's a big round. So even though it only shot 8 shots, it was extremely loud inside that area. That was not at the Bridge Studios. That was at a different studio we called Norco.
Norco. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I remember that.
Snorco.
Yeah, exactly. But they had all the sandbags there that were all set up. We had an incredible art department. It was the best for its time.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good shot. Nice tight shot there. And he's got his eye open there, which is great. And he's using the peep sight, but he's looking right above it too, because
Mm.
you're so close that you wouldn't actually use the sight. You can just look above the weapon, right? So there's that Remington 700. There's a better shot of it. Ours was green. That one on top is black, but we had a green version. You could see the person carrying there. And it's got the big suppressor on it, right? It was just something that they wanted swiping past frame. It just was interesting to the eye. Good old Chris with the
Chris.
M60 there. Yeah. And he's got that patent teal look to him. So, yeah.
And he's got a modified device on this thing to take out Coal Warriors.
That's right. Rick. I keep saying
It's
Rick.
okay. It's okay.
Chris had he
It's
had
only
the
our 100th gun. Come on, give yourself some
he
credit.
definitely had the arms to go with it because he's a very strong guy, very big guy. Yeah, there's basically we built these weapons for iRobot. It was a Will Smith movie, but it wasn't used at all since we did that movie. And then they liked the look of these. These are actually they're
Taurus
revolvers
85?
inside, 22 caliber revolvers inside
Oh.
that could shoot, I think, 10 rounds. So we basically used it for certain scenes. They were a little high maintenance because I had to have like a little cordless drill and have to open it every time it was loaded, and then I'd put a red flag around it if it was loaded, green if it was clear and safe. But yeah, we had several of them because they just want to go take after take after take, and I'd have like five of them preloaded, ready to go.
They're beautiful pieces. They really do look like they're out of science fiction.
Yeah, we still have those at our shop. They just don't, they are a sci-fi type looking weapon.
Uh-huh.
The Calico, no longer made. 100 round drum
Oh.
on top, 9 millimeter, eject straight down. Not the most reliable weapon, but definitely has a unique look to it. And we'd use it in the odd episode. I remember that. And the good thing about the P90 is you could fire it one-handed. And I put this photo in because I wanted to show Chris is holding, and he fired quite a bit with one in each hand, and sometimes not at the same targets, right? He would be altering targets and stuff like that. But he loved it because, you didn't have to worry about the brass ejected straight down. He's not wearing flip-flops, he's wearing boots, right? So it worked out quite nicely.
Are you ready for a stupid guy with a stupid question?
Sure.
What is the difference between a clip and a magazine?
So a magazine is what the rounds are actually held in that go on the firearm. A clip is usually a combination of rounds that is held on the person that goes into an integral mag. So this this is such a big mistake. Film, television, and in reality, people calling it a clip. It's not a clip. It's an actual magazine. The only time it's a clip is if it's a piece that holds the rounds together that go and drop inside of a magazine. That is what a clip is.
So on a P90, it's a clip.
It's a magazine.
It's a magazine.
Yes,
I'll
the
be darned.
magazine,
Thank you
it's
for
already
correcting me.
filled inside of it. So those are like the magazine is pre-filled, right? So like a clip would be what they used on an M1 Garand
Okay.
because it was integral. It was inside the weapon. So you took the clip of 8 shots and you pushed it into the weapon in the integral magazine. But on a P90, the magazine fits on the top of the weapon and then you chamber it and it's ready to go.
How do you reload a P90 magazine? Is there a
With
machine that you get, or do you drop
no,
them in one by one?
all with hands. With
Oh my
uh,
God.
50 round
Seriously.
magazines. Yeah.
So you
I
just
loaded
watch and make sure that they go in the same direction.
I swear I probably loaded 300,000 or 400,000 rounds of P90 ammo in my time. And that's just P90 ammo. But it's all done by hand because you can control how it's done. A machine won't suffice because you won't get a proper loading sequence in it.
That's nuts, dude.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Uh,
Ooh.
I love this weapon, the HK-MP7. It's state of the art, still used today, especially by elite special forces units around the world. It's a really odd caliber. It's 4.6 by 30, so it's like a little dart, but it's so powerful it can penetrate a lot of body armor, and it ejects to the right like a normal firearm. Has a stock that folds out and it has a little drop handle for holding it. With Chris, I'd always leave the stocks closed. You can see that the fronts are closed. And he basically held them like pistols and would fire them on automatic. And it was much lighter. It's probably half the weight of a P90.
The thing with the Jaffa,
Mm.
they they have more strength than a human, either 1.5 or at least twice the strength.
Yeah.
So for a lot of these weapons, if that was true, they would hold them differently. So I'm sure it was tricky to trying to get in the idea that Teal'c was able to carry this stuff much more easily than a human could and have to fake a few things.
Yeah, but at the end of the take, Chris would be like this, here, Rob, take it. My arms are killing me.
Yeah.
Because it does get heavy when you're doing this all day. You don't want to be holding those all day, especially walking down a hallway that is lit with fire and there's heat and it's extremely warm inside and stuff like that. So I was always there. I was always, once the firearms are in the cast hands, I never left set. I was constantly watching them, right? It's my job.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's a good shot with Ben, with the also with the MP7.
What's
Um,
the color in the scope? Is that a
that's like
movie trick or
no, it's just basically it helps stop reflection of the scope with sunlight.
okay?
So it's like an iridium type color. It's the same as what would be used on like today's F-35 fighter aircraft.
Is
Same
he
sort of.
seeing that color on his end looking through the
No,
scope?
no, he's
Can't
seen
see
a
it.
little red dot, and he's probably on wants to do a single shot because he's got his left eye closed. So he's doing an aim shot almost like a sniper, even though it's not a long range weapon. It's still deadly accurate. This is probably accurate up to about 75 meters, roughly. Good old Mac 10. That one has a big compensator on it. It's actually the one we used for in Blade 3.
Okay.
Basically, and it's got a big long magazine on it. That's a 32 round magazine for the Mac 10. Very fast. Rate of fire 12 rounds per second. So 30 rounds did not last you long. Oh, the Steyr TMP. We didn't shoot this weapon a whole lot because it's always been problematic. It doesn't like blanks, but it had a unique look. So it worked better on semi-automatic than it did on fully automatic. So, but it has definitely a unique look and it was different from everything else in our inventory. So they adapted it for that episode. Yeah, another PPS H1. That's with a drum. So that's a 50 round drum and basically has a different look to it. But that's dating back to World War II, but it's definitely when you see that, it's Russian.
Yeah, this is more of a World War II era planet in terms of technology, so that definitely fits.
Yeah. Oh, good. Oh, yeah. Street Sweeper. Yeah. So that's the same one Rick had in the shot earlier. So that is your 14 round 12 gauge, right? But the good thing about a Street Sweeper is you didn't necessarily have to use 12 gauge ammo. Like normal buckshot, you could use explosive 12 gauge or flares or incendiary rounds and stuff like that. So you could alter your ammunition in it. Right. So
Wow.
yeah. G36. This was definitely Ben's favorite.
Really?
Huge fireball. I love that photo. That's full loads. And you can see the brass coming out. And there's a couple rounds in the air there. 30 round magazine. HK is probably one of the top weapons manufacturers in the world today, and they do everything is state of the art, right? So he definitely loved the weapon. Yeah, and there's
Ah,
good old F-16. So that's your basic M61. That's a 20 millimeter Gatling gun inside the aircraft, which is quite standard in the F-18s, like the Hornets, the Super Hornets, the F-16, Fighting Falcons.
So it's in here.
It's in there, yeah. So it's actually behind the pilot and it's integral, right? So, but the weapon itself is quite long. It's probably between 6 and 7 feet long.
Oh
It's
my.
not short by any means.
And length increases accuracy for further distance, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And the rate of fire on that is quite impressive. It's roughly about 3,000 rounds per minute. So you're looking at 50 rounds a second of 20 millimeter coming at you.
And this thing is spinning in that process?
It rotates,
Okay.
has 6 barrels, so it fires out of the 12 o'clock position, and then it usually ejects out of the 4 o'clock position. But the brass
Wow.
doesn't eject out of the aircraft. It's all kept inside a big tub behind the actual weapon itself.
Good to know.
Oh, the good old cop. This is a four-shot 357 Magnum or Derringer. 357 Magnum caliber, but it's a four-shot, so it's only has the one trigger, but it basically has a four-stage trigger. So every time you pull the trigger, it'll shoot top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. But unique looking, the famous
Yes.
Derringer from the Westerns, but this is a four-shot instead of a little two-shot. Yeah.
So so it fires in a clockwise sequence, did you say, from the perspective
It's
of the
no, it goes top left, top right, bottom
Oh,
left,
okay.
bottom right. Because people were saying, well, which round? What if I just want to fire one round? I said, well,
Right.
it doesn't matter which one you put it in, it's going to engage that one because it has like a sensor inside. Once you put the rounds in, the actual trigger knows which chamber is loaded.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, they're small. Good old Baby Eagle. People call it the Jericho. We call it the Baby Eagle it's made by Israeli military industries, all metal. Really, really reliable handgun. There's a full load of it shooting there, right? So nice muzzle
Wow.
flash out of it. Easy to use. Very, very easy to clean. Armors love it.
You see the cube he's holding?
Yes.
That's behind me now.
Oh, is it? Oh, fantastic.
That exact one.
Oh, yeah, good old, yeah. That's another 357. That's a little Rossi. So that was in the diner sequence. Just a basic 357 Magnum, right? Just a small version, heavy, heavy barrel on it. Looks pretty fearsome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Look at
remember
how
that.
small Claudia's hand is
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, there we
There's
are.
yeah, that iRobot pistol. Yeah, just like that. So there's a good shot of it. The art department on that movie at the time did a great job in aging it and making it look like a used weapon instead of something like right out of the box. But we also had rubber versions of these, and we had replicas too. The
Wow.
Vector CP1. So this is a South African 9 millimeter. Came out in the 90s.
Look at the
Unique
curves on
looking.
it. It looks completely different.
Yeah, and if you look at the safety, you see the little red circle in the front. So if you wanted the safety off, you pulled that back and the red would disappear. So when you see red, red means dead, right? Red means safety is off. So as you pull that back with your forefinger of your other hand, if you're holding two-handed, you can turn the safety on and off.
All right.
Unique looking, no rough edges, very, very smooth. I think it's still used by certain police units in South Africa today. Good old Enfield, been around since World War One. Yeah, very, very reliable, right? Used with the British Army, Canadian Army back in World War One, even before then, right? So it's been around well over 100 years. Has a unique look because of that front sight. It's just odd looking, but this was not a side cylinder that popped out. It was an actual button you pressed on the other side and it would break at a 45-degree angle. And as you broke it,
Wow.
it had a spring and would pop out your casings and you put your next 6 rounds in and then close it.
Wow.
Yeah. PM12. I did a movie in Italy 3 years ago and the uh, the Italian special police, the federal police still carry these. Great submachine gun. Has a safety, has multiple safeties on it. You can see below the trigger, there's a little switch. So you can't engage the trigger unless you pull that switch. So sometimes the actors, not necessarily Chris, but sometimes the actors would forget to press that switch and they say, my gun is jamming. So I would take a zap strap and I would pin that down so they couldn't screw it up, right? But yeah.
You're talking about precious seconds in production, any way to
Yes,
help them
well,
out.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, time is money. But you can see Chris has both a P90 there and a PM12, right? So yeah. And then they're
great
both
shot.
one-handing it. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. And that the beauty of that weapon is you could do tight two shots, you could do a tight four shot if you wanted. We had 10 of these in stock, right? We still have them, and they're extremely reliable, but so safe to use when it comes to brass ejecting. So that it was very, very camera friendly. Great weapon. Just not used a whole lot because the benchmark was Stargate with it, right?
Yeah.
So.
How much, accuracy are we talking about here when they're one-handed with
Mm,
a kickback on that? How
yeah,
accurate really are they going to be if they actually had to shoot at something at a little bit of range?
yeah, especially if they're not using the sight.
Yep.
Realistically, 20 meters, maybe,
Okay.
maybe. Um, Once you have it in the shoulder, it's much better. This is called the AP9, or we call it the Tech 9. And you can see this shoots like a pistol. It only has full auto and safe. That's it. There's no
Wow.
semi-automatic on it. You can see the muzzle flash in it quite fast. You see how close they are, but you can tell just slightly from the angle that I don't have the person with the submachine guns not shooting at Ben. He's shooting off of him, and Ben is actually shooting off of everyone too, right? So we always had to find holes, especially this is a very close range shot,
Hmm.
firing blanks, and the two gentlemen below are stunt performers that separate. So we always had to rehearse and we wouldn't actually load anything up with blanks until I was 100% happy with it, right? Yeah, there's some more great shots with the Garand. Yeah. Amanda with the P90. Yeah. Good old Thompson, M1A. Been around since World War II. Super reliable. 45 caliber, 45 ACP. Um, Great weapon. The difference between the military version and the civilian version. The military version, the cocking handle is on the right-hand side of the stock.
Ah,
Civilian version is on the top.
interesting.
So when gangsters in the 20s and 30s, they had the civilian versions, which were also semi and fully automatic, and they usually came with drums. But the drums were notoriously for miss or jamming the guns in rough environments like in war. So the Americans strictly went with magazine, 20 and 30 round magazines. Yeah, good old yeah, the little Scorpion. That's a Gen 1. Has a little stock that the little ring in the front pops open and you can put it in your shoulder, although it's got limited range. It's very small caliber, 32 ACP. But at close range, so that's a 20 round mag. It fires fairly quickly. You could empty that magazine in about 3 seconds. It also had semi and fully automatic capabilities. Yeah.
What's the purpose of this arc of metal that goes around and comes back
Because
down?
it actually pops open and acts as a
Ah,
stock, so you can put it in your shoulder, although you're still like this. So
right.
kind of, it's there. You can see it, how they got it open there, and it's in their shoulder. But
Okay.
no, I think yeah, both of them are closed in that one. But and that's on the bottom photo. That's my good friend Dean Cho, who's a stunt coordinator. Um, he has two sons that I train how to shoot. But great guy. I remember that sequence well, firing those.
Bad guys. You're hostages. There's a whole school of etiquette to this.
Yeah, yeah, that was a lot of firepower in there. Yeah, we made quite a mess. And then you got the good old New Haven, which
12
is
eight,
like
12 gauge.
yeah, it's a standard skeet shooting type shotgun, right? But still useful, right? Um, you still use today, and then you got a mixture here of with the Winchester and a New Haven. So two different shotguns, same caliber.
How was Bo to work with?
He's great. Yeah, yeah. I worked with Bo and Jeff Bridges, right? So it was great working with. They're so much alike, but they're so different too. Remington 7600. So this is a pump action uh, 308 caliber rifle. So it actually pumps like a 12 gauge to chamber and to eject the casing. You can see on the bottom there's a beveled edge. That's an integral magazine that pops out. And it holds like 5 rounds. So
Okay.
after 5 rounds, you got to pop it out and either put a new mag in or reload that same magazine.
Got it.
Yeah. The 240. Yeah, that's basically what I carried there in the military. Great general purpose machine gun still used today. And you can see the muzzle flash on the bottom photo. Uh, has a nice starburst. I think we used
Yeah.
replicators in this one.
Yep. There they
Yeah,
are. There they come.
yeah.
That's so cool. All
Uh,
right. So this is Atlantis.
yes.
All
So this
right.
is a Desert Eagle. It's not the most reliable weapon. This one I think is in 357 Magnum, but they also came in 44 Magnum and 50 AE, which is like a 50 caliber um, handgun round. Um, just not reliable. I used it. I did Deadpool 1 and 2, and
Mm.
Ryan was not a fan of it. They're just not the most reliable when it comes to blanks. They work better on quarter loads than they do full loads, so we tend to use a lot of quarter loads on it.
Okay.
Yeah. There's some great shots of the G36. You can see the muzzle flash. Yeah, that was a lot of fiber, and you can see he's doing a reload there on the bottom photo too, right? So
Yeah.
Joe's doing a reload, but yeah, great weapon. Yeah, they liked different looks sometimes. So this is the old Type 97. So it's a Chinese assault rifle. Still used today. I did a movie in China a few years back, and yeah, this is what the army carries over there. But there's different versions. That's a carbine version. And then you got the Wraith. I had to spend time with, I think,
Neil Jackson.
yes, I had to spend time with 3 or 4 of the Wraith in case they were all shooting, and they had to learn to shoot one-handed. And it is not a light weapon to do. So we spent an entire afternoon just going over it, a lot of dry training. And then it was mag after mag just to try and get it 100%. So I was impressed because that's not a comfortable weapon to shoot one-handed.
Neil would say he would come out of the trailer and put these things up, and like after the takes, you'd be like, "Oh my God, I can't lift them."
Yeah, they're not exactly light either. Yeah, it's not like, shooting a handgun. So yeah, and then you got Chris firing the saw, and that's not Chris, but that's one of the Stargate members firing the saw. You can see the muzzle flash. That's a full flash on it. And then you got Joe on the bottom right there.
Yeah.
So big, big muzzle flash. Very impressive weapon. And very loud, especially indoors. And you got the Benelli Super 90, uh, used by the military. Very, very reliable. Great shotgun. Has a unique look. There's much better variants today, but this is what we had at the time. And then the Mossberg, which is another great shotgun, simple to use, cheaper to buy for an average civilian, and extremely reliable. Oh, that's the side-by-side shotgun that we used. And then that one had a piece underneath, and I think it threw, I'm not sure what that addition was. I can't remember if it was a net of some sort that launched or something like that.
It's that wisp. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I'm looking at that.
It's
I think
cool, whatever it is.
it's a CG thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Ah, the
So this
Jedi
is an
again.
actual. So the Krieghoff is the top photo is a real photo. That's what the U-boat commanders in the German Navy used in World War II for flares. So if they had to launch a flare for emergencies or to mark a target or something like that, it was a two shot. So basically, you have a little handle in front of the trigger group area, and you pull that, and it opens up the weapon in half, and then that's
Ah,
what your 2 rounds in. So it was a weird caliber, so we had to put inserts in it, so it would take 12 gauge, and
wow.
with the inserts, then we could fire it with the 12 gauge. And you can see the one gentleman on the right holding it. And then you got Jason there that's holding it, right? So
Wow.
yeah, it was easy to use. So that that shotgun was made on Blade 3, and that was which was called Blade Trinity, but it was Ryan Reynolds' shotgun. It actually only fired out of the top barrel. The other two were just for looks, and they liked the look of it so much that we adopted it in some of the episodes. Yeah. It's
Wow.
basically a lever action 12 gauge. It fires up to 6 rounds, really.
Yeah, this was the signature weapon for the Cetidans in the flashbacks and
Yeah.
in anything that was left of Ronan's people.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't get rented. It's sitting out the shop there. One of my favorite submachine guns, the HK UMP. It's 45 caliber, slower rate of fire, but a lot of firepower. It's 45 ACP and really, really easy to use. Extremely light weapon for its size, but extremely reliable. Everybody likes it. The misfires on it were almost minimal. I think I'm holding it there, just showing it for.
You sure are.
It was a Stargate interview that I did many, many years back, but yeah, great weapon. Fantastic. And then there's just more of
Jamil.
the G36. Yeah, Jamil. Yeah. Lots of energy, that guy. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like a
Great guy.
bouncing ball.
Yeah, he definitely brought the energy out. Um, that was just set up just outside the stage, if I remember. I think it was I did this for basically we were filming inside the stage and outside the stage,
Is this
right?
you here?
This is me, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
with a wormhole extreme shirt?
I do. Yeah, I remember getting that. I don't remember what season that was,
That was
but
season 5.
yeah,
That was the 100th
fantastic.
episode.
Oh, fantastic, yeah. And then more of the M4s, UMPs and stuff like that. There's an M4 right there that I'm just cocking it, showing everybody it's clear and safe, finger off the trigger. And just showing that there's different variants. So we had a big rail on the front, so we used to adapt like lights on it or
Yeah.
laser aiming modules, stuff like that. So yeah, the G36s, a Beretta, and M4s there. Trigger locks we left on the weapons if they weren't being used, and that way you always had the same. A lot of times the actors would want the stock at a certain opening and, for continuity, and it was for comfort also. So I would basically mark those on the buttstock, and as I gave back to the actor, I'd take the piece of tape off and slap it on my leg, and when they were done, I'd just put it back on, right? So
Wow.
yeah, this is the Krinkov. So um, you've probably seen photos of Bin Laden with this at his side, right?
Oh,
Standard
yes.
submachine gun. Well, it's not submachine gun, it's same caliber, but it's a smaller caliber than the AK, but that has a plastic magazine. Extremely reliable. Favorite amongst Russian Spetsnaz. Back then they used much different weapons today, but in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, this was their primary weapon.
Wow.
Yeah. Good old Walther P38. So this is basically the second generation version of a Luger, a much more reliable weapon, built in World War II by Mauser and
Mm.
later became Walther. But great, great handgun, super reliable, easy to use. And then your standard Beretta. Yeah.
From the movie. Yeah.
This is the actual movie here. So yeah, a lot of the firearms that were off the movie, we tried to replicate as much as we could in the first season of SG-1, especially with James Spader, he's holding the Beretta there. And then you got Kurt Russell, he had like an MP5 and different types of firearms, but everything that they used in the movie we had in our inventory, right? So it was easy to replicate. I had to watch this movie over and over and over and
I
over
bet you did.
to get a feel for it because I had to train all the cast. There's a lot of training that went on. So you got your standard Glock, which was used in there also, right? So and then the different characters. I worked with Kurt Russell several times. He's a great guy and extremely knowledgeable with firearms and just a great person to work with.
It makes so much of a difference when you have someone who has previous experience with firearms and a
Absolutely.
respect for the weapon. You know,
Yes.
you just
Yeah.
take care of it when it's with it takes care of you, you know. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a little shot holding the Glock, got his arm around his neck and stuff like that. And his fingers on the trigger, so at that point
Mm-hmm.
you're ready to engage, right? So at some point you have to get your finger on the trigger. It can't be off the trigger the whole time, right? So these are earlier version MP5s, right? These are A2 models. So you can see like the select lever on the top has the lettering, where the one on the bottom, which is a different variant, has no bullet, one bullet, and then lots of bullets. So it's more of a symbolism thing. So you didn't have to deal with letters because that way you could use it around the world, right?
Oh, I see. Okay.
The
No, one
white
and
with the X
lots.
across means safe. The single bullet means single shot, and then lots of bullets means fully automatic.
And red
That's
means
all that.
dead.
Yeah,
Is that a global standard in terms of weaponry?
it is, especially
Okay.
with HK now because they sell to so many different countries, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and there's different versions there and stuff like that. It's got the beret on the right way, which is great to see, and it's over the left eye. You know, being a
Ah,
technical advisor too, I look at these things, and
sure.
so then your standard MP5, right? So there's no way you would stand with it up with the barrel at the side of your head like that, not in a million years. But I think they just wanted to see it on camera. So yeah. PSG-1, great sniper rifle. I mentioned this earlier. This is creme de la creme back in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. 308 caliber, 7.62, and extremely accurate and a very expensive weapon. You're looking at about 15,000 US for that.
15,000.
Yes. Yeah, great weapon. Just more shots of it in there, right? So
Yeah.
Ray's riding a little high. That means they didn't have time to reset and costumes was too far away.
Ah,
Um, different shot, M16A1, and then the A2 on the bottom. A2 handguards, right? So you can see the difference in the handguard. The one on the top is more Vietnam era, and the one on the bottom is definitely a later version, more 80s, 90s. And then your good old Mossberg bullpup, which we have these at the shop. They didn't want these, which was fine. They only hold like four shots, four or five shots,
mm,
right? So, but it's a pump action 12 gauge. It definitely has a unique look, and I'm glad they used it in the movie because it doesn't get enough credit.
absolutely.
Yeah, and there's some group shots there, stuff like that. So, yeah. Although everywhere your rifle goes is where you're looking. So if you look in a certain area, your rifle is not pointed the other way, which we see on the left-hand side there on the top photo. You would not be doing that. But anyways. All right. So these are actual
Blocks of
Stargate
plastic death.
blocks. Yeah.
Yes, I sold these. This is probably from a fixture that I had taken because it's really it's poised and everything for the prop work. So that's probably exactly what that is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it doesn't look like that in reality, but I think they wanted it camera friendly. So
Yep.
it works. It says C4 right on it. So that's actually what it looks like right there. So
Oh,
it comes in 2 pound blocks. I've worked a lot with C4 when I was in the military, and it is powerful stuff. And you can definitely shape it with heat. If you take a flame through it to it to heat it up, it's not going to blow up in your hand. That's all.
1% DMNB.
Yeah, that's the type of chemical compound inside that basically gives it that explosive charge inside. So it says charge demolition, right? But people call it C4 because that's the military designate.
What in it makes it pop? What have they done with the
It's
molecular
a
compound inside this clay to make it go boom?
it's a chemical compound. I don't know the exact breakdown, but what it has is it needs initiation. So it needs either a blasting cap or an electrical charge. When we take a blasting cap and we put it inside the C4, that actually sets a very violent fuse off, which ignites the C4, but it has to be a certain amount of pressure involved in order to set off the explosive. So when you take a lighter to it, we used to take lighters to it just so it comes hard as a rock, and you
Oh, you
want to
want to make
shape
more
it
metal.
into a
Okay.
shape charge.
So a little bit of fire won't hurt anything.
No, no, we used to. I had a friend of mine made a Bart Simpson head out of his once of course, it was funny, but he had to change it eventually. But
Of course.
yeah, but it and that's Semtex, so that's more of a shape charge. So Semtex is what they use to do like entries through tape. You'll see on SEAL teams use it to go on the side of an aircraft or into a building and stuff, and they'll either lay a tape around a door, and that's usually made of Semtex. So it's what they
Wow.
call directional charge.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is DM-12, so this is a German version of C4. And we got to work with these when I was based in Germany quite a bit. It's a little bit more powerful than C4, and it comes in a smaller amount. Like it's only I think a 1.5 pound block and stuff like that. But definitely powerful stuff. We would build a structure and then just blow it up, and there it was. That was part of the course.
Rob, who discovered that plastic could do this if you add the right molecular compounds to it?
I have no idea. That
Okay.
is
I mean, I know how the microwave was discovered. It was an accident, in World War II, but I'm curious. So many things that we use and take for granted were come upon by accident, you
yes,
know?
and most most inventions are made through the military
Yeah,
because they have the
absolutely.
money and the research and time to do it, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
what I have here. This was so cool. Thank you for taking the time to go through something. I learned a lot. I always learn a lot when I sit down with you, and it's really something special to go through the nuts and bolts of each of these pieces that created the series. And I really appreciate you taking the time.
No, thank you. It was all the pleasure was all mine, David. Thank you.
It was Rob Fournier, owner of P51 Productions and the armorer of Stargate SG-1, Atlantis and Universe. I have to thank Rob tremendously for all that he has done for me and for Dial the Gates and the knowledge that he has provided. And I consider him a friend now, and he's really been there to have my back. So I appreciate him continuing to come back to share his immense wealth of knowledge for his niche in this film and television industry. There are not many people like him, that is for sure. If you enjoy Stargate and you want to see more content like this on YouTube, click the like button. It makes a difference and will continue to help us grow the channel. Please also consider sharing this video with a Stargate friend, and if you want to get notified about future episodes, click subscribe. And giving the bell icon a click will notify you the moment a new video drops, and you'll get my notifications of any last-minute guest changes. And clips from this episode will be released over the course of the next few weeks on the Dial the Gates YouTube channel. Tremendous thanks to my producers, Anthony Rowling and Linda Gategaber-Fury, for always having my back. My moderating team could not do this show without Tracy, Anthony, Jeremy, Marcia, Summer, Raj, and Lockwatcher. You guys make the show possible week in and week out. Frederick Marcoux, our web developer over at Dial the Gate, he's got an updated website coming in the next few months here. So really looking forward to seeing what he's got in store. And more episodes are coming your way, both pre-recorded and live. So be sure to stay tuned. My name is David Reed for Dial the Gate, and I will see you on the other side.